job looking from our friend Holly up through management of looking what do we do to approve project? What are the limits? If you remember, we approved a whole new system, which starts giving us some good controls, gives Darren the right controls to allow to continue construction and things, sets limits that are great. Like I said, it's you can almost see I'm pretty happy seeing from Holly developing this thing up originally, having Chris and Darren come on top of these things that we had to look at some other things to refine the system and everything. And so, I'm pretty happy what's been done. We've had meetings. Gary, you've done a great job of getting in there a long ways from 4 years ago, where if we got change orders, the system wasn't totally developed, and having Darren come in here is nice, having somebody look over this whole thing. So a lot of these projects, you see the words contingency and some of these things. So, that's kind of a lead off of some of the things that will be in each one of these items, or most of these items to look at. So I guess, Chris, with that, that's kind of a lead off, my friend.
Thank you, Chair Sperber, trustees, CEO Griffin. Chris Cobb, your manager of engineering and construction. So with that wonderful lead off by Chair Sperber, I'd like to dive right into this. And as he said, a lot of that is based on previous actions. So this first item before you today is seeking recommendation to the Board of Trustees to authorize our CEO and President to provide an owner's contingency in the amount of $300,000 for our passenger boarding bridge project phase 2. And as Chair Sperber stated, we're kind of here because of the Board of Trustees' recent adoption you did last month of resolution number 550. And that changed the monetary amounts that our President CEO can approve contracts, as well as the biggest thing is the change orders. And before we're seeking board approval, that change order, what happened is where we used to have $100,000 limit and we could stay under that and go to the president as many times as we want. Now it's an additive. Anytime we exceed $100,000 additively, it requires a board action. Now, with most of our projects being multi-million-dollar projects here at the airport, that does create a situation where we could have multiple work stoppages or increased cost to the project, having to wait for that. So with that, during the development of the resolution 550, both purchasing and engineering sat down and we really looked at, as that resolution was coming together, what were the best practices out there for managing construction cost, and how changes were done across the country and here locally. This board item is a part of that collaborative effort of our two departments working together to come up with a solution with that. So as a reminder on the project itself and some background, I've got you the wrong project. That's the next one. Let's go to, apologize for that. As a reminder, our project for the passenger boarding bridge includes replacing the 5 of our most oldest bridges. 4 of them on Concourse B, you see there in yellow, and 1 of them there on Concourse C. Now, the reasons for those replacements is to maintain our ADA compliance, as well as replace our outdated technology, and it reduces our overall maintenance cost. The Board of Trustees originally authorized this project in November of 2020. It included our base bid and alternates 1 and 2, and the total contract award to JBT, John Byng Technologies, was a little over $3.6 million. This project was fully funded from passenger facility charge number 14. So as we took a look at this and how to move forward, with the original award of contract, that was under a different resolution and different practices. At that time, staff did not include an owner's contingency. Having a form of contingency on a project is very standard in construction industry, and it's very standard here locally. Locally, it is done by both cities Reno and Sparks, our Regional Transportation Commission, and our Washoe County School District. A lot of people like to use that quick rule of thumb and just say, oh, it's 10% of the construction cost. However, we kind of are looking at the best practices method here, where we really want to look at the type of construction we're doing, what those risks are associated with what has to be done, and what we would really need as a contingency on the project. Based on that and staff taking a look at it along with our consultants and what we have remaining to do on this project, we did determine what we'd like to see is a $300,000 owner's contingency, which is about 8.3% of our construction cost. And that's based on the work we still have to be completed and the risk associated with doing this. Now, these funds and the owner's contingency, they're to be used for unforeseen conditions or owner-directed changes that improve the quality of the project and its performance, as it would be directed by our staff. The funding on this, as I stated, did come from passenger facility charge number 14. The original budget was a little over $4.9 million. To date, with our approved cost on this project, design was a little over $328,000. Your construction management is $71,000, and our current awarded contract to the contractor is $3.6 million. By adding this $300,000 as a contingency set aside for us, your updated estimate at completion is a little over $4.3 million. That's still $668,000 under our budgeted for this project in passenger facility charge number 14. With that, by approving this item, it would allow our staff here to approve contingency change orders to the construction contract using the approved owner's contingency without having to stop construction and wait for board meetings to seek approval to move forward with these issues. With that, staff is seeking our Planning Construction Committee's recommendation to the Board of Trustees to authorize the president to direct funding for an owner's contingency for the passenger boarding bridge replacement project phase 2 here at Reno Tahoe International in the amount of $300,000. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And this is the first of 2 items that are kind of a cleanup on our projects that we previously awarded under our old policy, and with the new policy, creating an ability for us to keep construction moving, but with the limited abilities and within funds that are budgeted.
Thank you, Chris. Questions, comments?
Just as information.
Mr. Carey, it looks like you'd like to speak on this.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. Just for answering a question, is there a need for this money to be used at this time?
Sean, what we're looking at is we have a couple things we've noticed already with the construction. We're taking a look at some of the camera placements in the original design, and we think there might be an opportunity to have a better coverage if we added some potential additional cameras, as well as when we look at where the rotundas go and those connections that we're making to the old foundations, ensuring that we don't run into issues there. And if we do, we have an ability to deal with those issues. And those are some of those risks that we looked at.
That's an excellent use of the policy that you're pushing forward. You're looking at things as they're developing in the field, and you're making them better based upon what you're finding, and just proves how smart the team is at the airport to be pursuing this policy. So thank you for that answer.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Other questions, comments?
I would
All
agree
righty.
with that.
You agree with that? And you can see, and
Yeah,
you can
what
see
Sean
as
said,
we're gonna,
because yeah.
right. So yeah, I know all 3 of us have worked in this type of system for years. And the thing I like, we'll be going through and we're setting up these things to look at each project and what the contingency should be. As you know, let's say if you have a lot of over X on something, you have no idea, you need certain amounts. If something is so defined, you might need less. So this way we're kind of doing it and then allowing them to continue work. As we know, it's kind of crazy to wait sometimes for board meetings. So exactly, that's probably going to be a question every time, Sean, is what are you looking at on those, right?
Well, I just
I'm
I just like the way that it was right at Chris' fingertips. He's been looking at the project with his team, and that this is something that it's in the hands of professionals. It's needed to make the work the most efficient for the future. And you don't see everything in the design room, and it's great to have great eyes looking at projects like this. So I'm just pleased with what's going on, and it's going to speed things up. And when speed is money in the contractor business, so that's my comments.
Sounds great.
Sorry if I'm,
Lisa?
my sound's kind of going,
Uh-oh.
okay, so I'm not sure what the deal is, but I'll try not to be interrupting.
Uh-oh, you just stopped for a minute on my screen.
Yeah, it's my sound is kind of intermittent. I lose sound here every now and then. I don't know what that was. It just kind of started.
Modern technology. So,
Yeah. Probably my end of
so
the
I didn't,
router.
is there more comments you have before we vote on this?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, with none, does somebody would like to make a motion? One of you two guys.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve.
How about a second here?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
All right, guys, any other questions, comments? Being none, let's call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, let's go on. The next one, I think, 4.2. Chris, you're on again, right, my friend?
Yes, sir, Chair Sperber. And very similar to the last one, again, Chris Cobb, your manager of engineering construction. This one has a little uniqueness that I'm really seeking. Two items is a part of this item, one of which is actually maximizing the use of our two awarded FAA improvement grants, along with authorizing the owner's contingency in the amount of $1 million on our runway project here. As discussed previously, we're here today because of that board action you took in March that kind of changed the parameters in which we operate. And as a part of that collaborative effort with purchasing, looking how to best move forward and operate with those changes. So as a refresher on our runway project, just to kind of bring you back up to speed on that, the original project, it included our award to Granite Construction, an amount of a little over $44.5 million. That included the base bid and alternates 1, 2, 7, and 8. Unfortunately, at that time, the FAA didn't have that money for our alternates 3, 4, 5, and 6, which included our outboard concrete panels. Since the original award, staff has done 2 administrative deductive change orders, which reduced the contract by about $922,000 and reduced Granite's original construction contract to a little over $43.5 million. With that, boy, I really apologize here, folks. I keep getting the wrong slideshow. I have too many to do today. Let's see.
There you go.
I thought I had these lined up perfectly for you, and I apologize. So with that, our original construction contract, as I said, was a little over 44.5. We've done the deductive. We're now at 43.5. That project, it included, which has been completed so far, is you see in green, the taxiway A runway incursion mitigation, along with the blast pads. Those were both completed last year with our work plan. It also included portions of the Mauser in the dark purple and the wildlife mitigation in the magenta color. Most of those were completed last year with still some parts to be done this year. The big lift, which is currently going on, is that red dashed line, which is our keel section, 50 feet wide, 11,000 feet long, and the light blue sections, which are our shoulders. That work that's remaining is about $33 million, which we anticipate to be done this year in October. The following work, the Magvar, which will be done in 2022, is a minimal amount of work. It will cause stoppages, but that'll be done in 2022. So the project currently, it is funded by 2 FAA grants. The majority of money comes from that. We have money that comes from PFC 13 for that wildlife mitigation portion that you see in the magenta, and then our sponsor share, which comes from PFC 14. Now with those FAA grants that we seek and we get from the FAA, they're made up of what you call cost allocation line items. And to give you an example, in many of our bids, we have several line items. And when you add them up, you get a total amount. Well, the FAA grant is no different. They have a line item that we use for administration, construction administration, construction management, inspection, and then the big line item is always that construction cost. When you add them up, you get a total amount, and that's what we seek from the FAA for our awarded grant. Now, during the construction, what we'll see at times as we go through that process, we may not need all that money in those line items, whether it's be in administration or construction management. And what staff had done in the past is we'd work with our FAA ADO representative, and we could adjust those line items.